You are listening to Where is the Music podcast. My name is Alberto, and on this program I will talk about music in all its forms. I discuss the creative part, the understanding of music, the role that music has in our culture, our shared life, our psyche, and I will do that with the help of my piano. You can find me on all major podcasting platforms and my work as composer, pianist and teacher at albertoferro.com. This podcast has no sponsor. If you like to support me, click the link to my Patreon page, available in the description. With a contribution as little as few dollars a month, you will significantly help me keep doing what I do. Now, on to this episode of Where is the Music? Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I thought I was going to open my practice studio to you all and show maybe what a jazz pianist does when they're practicing some improvisation. And this will be not necessarily a class. I would say it's quite impossible to give a master class in this format, particularly for pianists. Perhaps is more thought as it's more of a allowing if you're curious about it, what happens when a jazz musician decides to develop a tune, to learn how to improvise on it, and to prepare it for a performance. Perhaps I'm gonna go a little bit in a non-linear way and pick one or two standard tunes for the jazz repertoire and just showing you the types of things that one does to learn it, what they are, and what strategies might be good to adopt or ways of thinking. Perhaps you will find, if not useful for your own practice, perhaps you will find it interesting and curious, maybe something to try your own in the future. So the first tune I wanted to use for this is a tune that I learned a while ago. It's called, it's a famous standard, it's called Confirmation by Charlie Parker. It's a famous standard tune, is very much played in most jazz jam session settings, and it's considered, let's say, among those 30-50 must-know tunes, and the reason might be because of its style, and certainly among the compositions by Charlie Parker is probably on the top 10 list of the most important one is to know on the bandstand. This is how it goes. If you have never heard this style of music, this is called bebop. It was particularly high and strong during the 50s. This is where the time when Charlie Parker was considered like a demigod in New York City. And as you can tell, it's quite rhythmical, it's quite fragmented. There are all these little motifs, little chunks, melodies, a little bit overlapping and quite, let's say, exciting to hear, but at the same time it's quite difficult to follow, and it seems to be very much a fun approach to improvisation or to music playing, but at the same time quite virtuosic. There is so much in here. It's quite challenging to do it well. This style particularly came about as a sort of personal, let's say, statement against a particular type of jazz that was perhaps a little bit too polite to, let's say, historians might call it too white, in a sense that jazz musician started becoming a thing in rich white, let's say, places, environments in New York, places like New York City, and they tended to prefer a style of jazz that was polite, more clean, maybe to dance. The swing has this particular aspect of its history. It was very much black originated style of music, but then somehow it turned out also to be very good for entertaining everyone. So and there is a type of a kind of musician in America in the 50s that emerges, somehow trying to assert an originality of language, and it did so by imposing themselves as great talent, intuitive, improvisative, creative people, like, for example, like Charlie Parker, who would turn perhaps a sequence of chords quite let's say traditional, or nothing complex, into a melodic, let's say, roller coaster. So imagine this type of music. And then Charlie Parker comes and turns it. So you can tell how much this crazy sounding melody on top of this accompaniment really sounds like the imposition of a single creative artist that kind of wants to emerge. And this was a powerful message, of course, historically and culturally for black communities, and also he has become some sort of symbol, epitomizing somehow a type of art, a language where the individual can express his own individuality within a social, in a social context. Now, what is this music made of? We say we can call them licks, something like this. It's a lick or something like that. In jazz, it's called also a lick, and so it's licks are phrases quite rich and quite interesting that probably they somehow contribute to the construction of a larger repertoire of phrases, of motives that become part of the language. So these phrases are they have very much a rhythmical nature, as I was saying earlier, a kind of fragmented but very accented, very difficult to turn into motivic, let's say, themes or things that one can really rely on. There is this nature of the constant transformation of one lick into the next. I'll play you the whole melody by itself, so you can probably feel as you listen how unpredictable, even though something repeats, but a lot of it is just unpredictable. So you heard it already twice, but I'm sure if I'd ask you to sing it again, it will be very difficult. Okay, then what happens to the tune once it's in the hands of a jazz musician, and what will he do to transform it into his own? Let's first take the initial 8 bars. Okay, there's a lot. Certainly we have a consistent set of chords. 8 bars is quite traditional. Okay, but it will be very hard to talk about the harmony right here, especially because I don't intend this this podcast to be lessons. I intend them to be conversations on a musical topic, and I don't want my listeners to be necessarily technically involved in the making of music, but I'd rather them being curious about what happens, even when they don't necessarily share the same language of a practicing musician that the practicing musician has. So as I was saying, I'd rather not talk in detail about the harmony, the chord sequence. I'd rather talk about something that is more on the surface, and it's rhythm. So if you take the first line, that's a rhythm. So that is a strong portion of the musical message here. And if I avoid the conversation with regard to harmony, what type of chords, what scale am I using, etc., then I'm left with the rhythm, the rhythmical element. So then let's improvise on the rhythm. That seems a good way to transform the same rhythm. Okay, another one. Right? They all seem to fit. They're fit for purpose. Then let's improvise on this. I'm gonna stick with the chord sequence and then repeat it. Something like that. Now my hand is becoming accustomed to this rhythm, and I can say that this first beginning is kind of learned. Then we can move on to the next one, to the remaining, 5 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's long, but it's possible. So it goes ta 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 pa ta ta pa. Good luck with that. So let's try slowly. Okay, could you hear the rhythm underneath? I'm gonna do another one. So in the end, an improvisation based on the rhythm of confirmation sounds kind of like this. I wasn't exactly accurate, plus in the end I went back to the theme, to the melody of Charlie Parker, literally. I'll do another take. Okay, more or less. This is the principle. Okay, so the other thing that happens in pianist jazz world when they practice improvisation on a tune such as this is the so-called comping. Pianist knows this, especially, you know, if you're my student, I've made a big fuss about comping. Comping is that thing that you hear that the left hand does, and I keep thinking of this as more as a percussion device, as a drums thing than a piano thing. Of course, pianists need to play actual chords, and the actual chords should be made with the right notes, of course. But the sound, the acoustic aspect of it, the musical aspect needs to be percussive. It needs to somehow reflect or interplay with the rest of the music. So the difference is between a normal accompaniment you see how plain is the accompaniment like this compared to the so-called comping one. See how much richer and interesting that is. Now, all these chords that I'm playing, regardless they are different from one another, but at the same time they do have an important role to pushing the music forward. So, for example, there are certain spots of the melody where I really want to land on a larger accent. So, for example, here's one. So there we go. And then actually I skipped the first most interesting, which is that high note. I want my accent over there. And now I want another one here, right here, right there. And the last one I want there on the last note, right here. So the result is okay, I play it again. Isn't that cool? Now a tempo. Okay, that's already starts sounding a bit more like jazz. So I'm gonna continue with this. We have one chord only, and I can place it, I'm not sure, actually two chords. Yes, so I can place it on here and on there. Okay, then the next beat is this sounds a bit more regular, so I'm gonna place it right there. Maybe not, maybe on the first one. That sounds less predictable. So this little bit goes again. Okay, and then the next beat is that's really weird. Okay, so I'm gonna place a chord in the beginning to give it a little bit of solidity. That already sounds a bit more solid. and then, and here we have, I think, two. This one and that one. So let's play the whole thing as it comes out. Maybe, I hope I'll do it right. There we go. Now, if we were to improvise using the same principles, then I will have to practice putting my chord onto the accented notes. Notice how important is just the rhythmical nature of this music. And I'm gonna stress this to those of you who are listening who are actual pianists, and they spent 90% of their time, or maybe 100% of their time, thinking of which note, what chord, what scale, what phrase. I recommend you to thinking about when note, not which note. On which rhythm are you gonna play it? It's possible even to play always the same 5-6 notes and still sounding very much jazz. All right, I'm gonna improvise and see if I can put some nice chord on those nice accents. Something like that. You probably heard a lot. Probably heard some was completely different from my initial idea, but hey, that's how it goes. Okay, I'm gonna continue with a different tune now. This is another huge title in the jazz standard repertoire by Duke Ellington. This is Sophisticated Lady. I am 100% sure that even if this title doesn't tell you anything, but you have heard it 100%. Before I play it, I just want to say that this belongs to a possibly slightly older period. Obviously, Duke Ellington was already a star by the time Charlie Parker was performing. And it is for a completely different type of concert performance. At least this is the way in which Duke Ellington composed actually much of his music. It's not just a different style. We're not in bebop anymore. This is pretty much a swing, slow ballad. This song is very common to be heard sung with its original lyrics, but also it's an orchestra big band arrangement written obviously by the Duke himself. So the song, as I find it in the real book, sounds like this. I'm sure all of you have recognized this. Now, that's the creative part, because this is just a page of music, just a sequence of chords and a sequence of notes. How to turn this into something yours? This is what a jazz musician does. Now, we can think of it as actual lyrics. I don't sing. I don't really know the lyrics of these tunes. I would probably be able just to say whether the lyrics are correct, but I cannot say exactly what the lyrics are. But a musician tries to just get some meaning out of the sound of these notes and be creative on that. So what we see here is that the first phrase is quite a interesting one, like this one. It's a very modern, it's very lush, very chromatic. There is some emotional tension. It sounds like sounds already like a personal personal confession perhaps. But musically I hear a change of register from these notes to the same notes up an octave. Right? Okay. This leap might be a place for getting creative. So how about instead of getting from the bottom note to the high in the way that Duke Ellington has written, we can go in a different way. Or in a more linear way. Or coming from the top. So now this next beat offers something, a similar line, and back to the original note. Notice now how this chromatic descent is typical of this tune. Is actually is not that common to find so exposed chromatic descent in a ballad, and so slow, I would say. Usually chromatices 4 notes like that or like that are just used as a connector from one note to the next, so they tend to be rather, let's say, second order importance in a melody, but in here they're like put in front. So perhaps there is time. This low pace of these notes allow us a little bit of time to add things. For example, that's not a bad idea. Maybe I will pick a different note next time, but let's see how this sounds now with these ideas. Already just a little change. And now there is the closing sentence. You hear, even though very smooth and sweet, but you hear how the choice of chromatics from here to here and back to adds more tension and let's say juicy feeling. That's the only way I will describe it. I am going now to talk about this chromatic passage again because the chords that Duke Ellington has written are quite I don't know, cryptical. It's just chromatic chords. They're very hard to. It's very difficult to change them or to add things, but perhaps instead of playing the normal version of chords, perhaps you can readjust the notes. How about this? More, let's add this note. Okay, that's more interesting. Now I'm gonna play using that chord. That's already better. How about now these chords, I prefer them probably because they sound a little bit less obvious, a bit more mysterious. You don't really know whether this is a dissonance, this is the right chord or not, but the moment you hear them in sequence, then you realize they're filled with intention. How about making them even less obvious? I'm adding this time a clear wrong note. You hear that? Okay, let's see how this sounds. I think it sounds nice, but how about continuing with that dissonance? Instead of landing here, I'm gonna land here. You hear that wrong note? So. And this is jazz, I would say, because you, as you're listening, that I took you to this little short journey, and you thought, ah, that's interesting. I don't dislike it. Might be not the most beautiful choice, but you can certainly see the point that I'm making. At least that's my hope. But at the same time, this wrong note is just hinting at somewhere else. It's just taking you to a different appreciation of this passage, because you know the melody, you know the tune, but that wrong note is like, that's interesting. I didn't know that note, that sound, that off sound was a thing. And I think this plays well in a particular jazz word, I would say even a jazz aesthetic, because I always saw jazz as a type of language that not only allows, as we said earlier, personal, individual, interpretation, and but also the personal very often is, at least in the history of jazz, is a humble one, someone who comes from non necessarily privileged circumstances, and someone who has just talent and something to express that touches on a dimension of rawness that jazz has, and every other genres of music somehow looks at jazz also because of that rawness, originality, this sense of things coming naturally out in their primeval form, not in a refined, adulterated form, like, for example, classical music is. So these dissonances, which, by the way, if you are familiar with Duke Ellington orchestra's arrangement, you know how much Duke Ellington used his orchestra players for sounds and musical effects that were not really notable on paper. He developed these effects. I don't know. I think animal effects. I'm thinking, or for example, this famous. This is Take the A Train. Yeah, it's the sound of a train whistle approaching. It's a dissonance, but then this dissonance is put in the hands of jazz musician. It becomes a symbol of music, becomes a energetic musical thing that everyone can recognize and enjoy. So there is this aspect of jazz that I consider beautiful, which is the rawness, the primitive way of expression. It's like allowing things to just come out in their raw way. That doesn't mean just playing whatever happens at the piano, but means giving, let's say, giving importance to things that are authentic, and I think jazz does a fantastic job with that. I'm gonna just finish with a quick take on the bridge section of this, which is quite different. It sounds like this. There is a change of trajectory here, at least a change of feel, because the initial melody, as you recall, was quite intense, I would say certainly sophisticated, as the title, as the lady of the title, but also it's quite memorable in a sense. It's so unique and original that is very peculiar, while here we have a sort of more relaxed take, more probably more linear, a bit more traditional, and seem more playful. Okay, and now nonetheless he is able to add this element of sophistication and unpredictability. You heard it. Right? Everyone will expect something like this, but he does kind of a mistake, but that mistake it's another chromatic scale. How interesting. How would a musician develop this? Well, I will go with the feel, which is, as I mentioned, I feel that the vibration, the vibe here is more relaxed, is more linear, so perhaps I will just improvise in a smoother way. The second phrase of the bridge goes. It's quite intricate, but then it's sophisticated. So I'm gonna do now to finish this episode. I'm going to play it through, see if I can add a little bit of improvisation and without destroying the sense and the feel of this music, and perhaps doing what I showed you earlier and see how it sounds. Okay. I always enjoy final chords. They allow me to be very creative. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this little tour, this little show of what happens behind closed curtains in the world of a practicing jazz pianist. I should do a series of this, perhaps looking at different songs, different tunes, and also this helps me because I am refreshing work that I've done a while ago, and it's always a joy to play this beautiful music. So if you want more, I will recommend you to just drop me a message, and I'll be happy to choose some. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening, and see you again next time on Where is the Music podcast. Thanks for listening to Where is the Music podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, look up for others. I made a few. I publish an episode every week roughly, investigating each time a different aspect of music, the music making, the music listening, the meaning of music, and its relevance in our lives. It is very helpful for me if you like, subscribe, follow on your favorite platform. Where is the Music is on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TuneIn, and Google Podcasts. If you like to support me, you're free to do so through Patreon, link in description. Thank you again. Until next time.